It's another day of waiting for a new trend to edit, because you haven't posted since the microwave edits were trending. But as you're wasting another Sunday night scrolling and losing complete hope in your sleep schedule, oh wow, that's a cool edit, but like it's kind of random. Hey, that's kind of just like the edit I seen a moment ago. Wait a minute. No way. Did I just catch a brand new viral edit trend? But wait, how in the heck do I expect myself to make something like that? And that, my friend, is where your favorite editor, Rivers Star, comes. Today, I'm gonna show you how I made this fresh new viral edit. Play the edit already, man. Today, I'll be walking you into step-by-step on how I made that very edit, from the transitions to the intro, and I'm even going to be giving you 7 free photo/video templates, which I made specifically for this trend, so you can follow along easily and saving you much time. Now, when I say I'm going to walk you through this edit, I mean it. I'm not just going to play a video of me editing with no context, because nah, we don't do that around here. But I won't be literally explaining every single click I make. So instead, I'll be showing you a brief summary on how I make each effect, and enough detail for you to get a good idea. And if that is not enough information for you, then I'll put a detailed tutorial on the video card. But if you don't see a video card for something I'm doing and you're struggling on it, feel free to comment it below and I'll try to get back to you, or maybe I'll make a specific tutorial on it. So before we get into this edit, make sure you have these plugins installed: Sapphire, BCC, Twixtor, Glitchify, Deepglow, and RSMB. Now, not all of these are going to be mandatory. Sapphire is going to be for this halftone transition, zooms, panning, and flicker. Twixtor is going to be used for that slow-motion effect between each clip. Glitchify will be used for this glitch transition, and BCC will be for removing a green screen we're going to use later on. And RSMB to add some motion blur effects, which will just overall make the edit smooth. So once you have that all settled in, what I started by doing is launching open my After Effects, made this comp with my usual settings, and imported the audio for this trend, which I also uploaded in my Discord server's edit audio section, which you can find in the description. Then I started to mark the beats, which was the first beat drop in the beginning, between the Sega and the Sonic scene. Then I marked the beat drop into the end, and all the beats from that point forward. I only marked half of the audio because, well, 1, I was lazy, and 2, the audio kinda looped so it wouldn't look that bad. Then after that, I imported the scene packs of my goat, Yobert Dawn, also known as the Reverse Flash. All I really did was cut up about 15-ish iconic and edible clips of him. Not edible. Editable, since that's all we really needed. But I did cut up some extra clips too, so we'd have space to experiment and get creative, and put them to align with the beats, which I personally thought fit in the best. Then from there, I played around with the position and scale values to fit right, and then pre-composed all of it, so we'd be ready to add our effects for the clip transition. But now, let's get into the good stuff first. When I mean the good stuff, I mean the edit intro, obviously. So what I started by doing is importing the stuff I was going to need to make this part of the edit. So what I did was design a few overlays that were made specifically for this trend, like these Sonic logos and the coin thing. And if you'd also like to use them, you can find those in my Discord server in this specific channel. So first I started by importing the background and the Sonic logo, and then adjusted it around to my liking. Then I added this little mosaic animation where I put the number to like 500, went a couple frames forward, and changed it to 400. Then I copy and paste those keyframes to last the entire length of that photo. This just makes it look more detailed. It supports that retro-y 8-bit vibe. Then I started to work on the Sonic overlay. First I pre-composed it and then went into that comp, duplicated it, then masked out the banger thing on the top layer. And again, luckily for you, you already have this cut up as an overlay. So if you're following along, drag that banner overlay on top of the main logo and use the scale so it looks right. The reason for this is so we can add the character overlay, and so it will be underneath the banner that's over the logo, so it will give off a 3D effect. Now you could technically mask over the character layer too, but I just think it's more flexible to do it this way. Speaking of the character overlay, let's just get to that. There's a lot of different ways to do this, like this and this. But I'm personally doing this kind of manually. I found a photo I liked, then I removed the background using this website, then I threw it into that composition and put it between the banner layer and the logo layer. Then I played around with the position and scale until it looked alright. I also put this white solid layer behind everything since the black background was making me really confused. And yes, I'm gonna delete this later. Next I used this puppet tool and the character overlay and pinpointed it around to make this light moving animation kinda. It's kind of similar to the Sonic load screen if you think about it. Not really, but kinda. So then I added the shadow effect, but because the character's shirt was also black, and so was the background of the inner circle of the Sonic logo, the shadow didn't really make a difference. So I changed the color to yellow, but then also added a couple of color changing effects so it was like a hue animation. Then I tried to mess around with this mosaic effect, which if you don't know makes things blocky, and a halftone effect to get the look I wanted. I ended up just using the halftone effect with a yellow tint, so it kind of gives off a comic effect, which works well since the bro I'm editing is a literal comic book character. Then I went back to the main cop and added a little scale animation to the overlay and a fade-in-ish effect, both the background and the overlay. Now I wanted to start with the first part of the intro, which I started by face tracking the clip, then I pre-composed that clip and added some Twixtor to slow it down, which would make it overall more smoother. Okay, so my dumbass accidentally clicked the command on my computer, which kind of just closed the recording I was doing. So you kind of missed the process of me making that Sega logo and this little pop-up transition into the edit, but I'll just show you what I did since it's better than nothing at this point. So first with the Sega logo, I made it an acceptable size, which is also one of the overlays in my Discord server, and then pre-composed it. Then I added the effects CC ball action, deep glow, drop shadow, and a hue/saturation to increase the colors. Here's the settings I used on the CC ball action, and here's a solid idea of the keyframes I made. Then I pre-composed that again, which is now that layer in the middle, and then added the Sega logo here and here with the deep glow stuff, with a opacity and animation. And then these two layers that are underneath both of them are just duplicated layers with deep glow removed, so the dark colors would still be there. I also ended up adding RSMB to the Sonic load screen part, which just adds another motion blur effect to make it more smoother, and the S_freeze frame effect, which just makes it framey and more retro-y. And I made this pop-up animation to go into the edit, which I just cut up the first frame of the first clip, roto brushed it, pre-composed it, freeze framed it, and added a halftone effect with position keyframes to go from up to down with a ease and graph. Now it's time to get started with the actual edit. First I started by making some basic Twixtor with a basic flowy graph, then copied and pasted to the rest of the clip. From here I made this little shake animation on the first scene, just so it will transition smoothly between the pop-up overlay I made earlier. The shake was just an S_shake, with the values messed around and amplitude keyframes with an ease out graph. I also added this really light halftone adjustment layer overlay to fade out right when the first clip starts, which I really liked. Next from here was time to make those transitions. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I applied S_bloomer curves to the first clip. I started by keyframing the Z-disc value to make a basic zoom, which was from 1 at the start and 0.8 at the end, so very light. I also moved this anchor point dot thing to his face, so it will overall just feel better. And I keyframed the Shift X value right when I wanted the transition to start, then I went to the end of the clip and turned it to around -1000. I easy eased them and made an ease out graph like this, and I also put these two to reflect. And that's just like a built-in motion blur in this effect. Next all I had to do was just do the opposite for the next clip. I keyframed the Z-disc and put it at 0.8 at the start, then at 1 at the end. This time, because we were going to transition the old clip with this one, I was going to start by keyframing where I wanted the transition to end, which was still at around in the middle of the clip. Then I went to the start of the clip and turned it up to 1000. And also, just to not get confused, this is still with the Shift X value. From there, I easy eased them with this graph. Then for the end transition of this clip, I just did the same thing with the Y values to make this little up to down transition, which was the same process, adding a little zoom in or zoom out, and keyframe the values from 0 to 1000 or -1000. Now I went ahead and did this for the rest of the clip, but just at the end I pre-composed these last two clips together because they were really short. I had a little yellow overlay flash thing between both of the clips, and then I just did an X-shake transition to be applied to both of the clips that were pre-composed, overall in my opinion making it look a lot better. Then once I had finished that, I went ahead and added another halftone shake animation in the middle part, because honestly I think it was necessary. I just copy and pasted the ones from the intro earlier, modified it a bit, and put it to where I wanted the new one to be at. Now it's time to do this coin animation. It's pretty simple to say for the least. First I started by going into the clips comp that I wanted to do the coin animation for, then I duplicated the video, then I selected the top layer, and I started to roto brush This was just going to mask out the character. Then I messed with these values a little bit to make it look better, and I froze all of it to make sure it stays in place. Next, to get the coin animation, go back to my Discord server in that channel, and download this green screen coin animation. Now come back and import it to be in between these two layers. Now search up and apply BCC chroma key, click on this little thingy, and select the green background. Now if you want, you can also add drop shadow to the character on top of the layer, kind of like how I did it here, and add some declo settings to the rings if you want. And honestly, I think it looks cleaner this way. And if you think the coins are a little too slow, you can also speed up the rings layer if you want. And you're gonna have to look up another tutorial if you seriously don't know how to do it. So next I added the coin animation to the rest of the clips that had that little coin beat drop to it in the audio. And then I also quickly just made these black solid layers with really light into opacity animations applied to it. And I just put them in between each clip that was being transitioned, because some scenes had a different tone than the other, so it didn't really transition well. So the black solid layer just helped the tone calm down a bit, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I copied and pasted that in between most of the scenes. Now finally what I did was pre-compose that edit part, duplicated it, and put it for the other repeated part of the edit. Then I added this little glitch effect, making an adjustment layer and adding glitchify the intro to fit it better since there was a little glitch effect in the audio. Now lastly, I added some flicker effects, pannings, and most importantly, some high quality color corrections. For this edit, I used my realism and my menacing color correction. If you're interested in checking those out, feel free to find them in my page. I'm not sure if you can buy from it right now because I'm having some legal payment issues, but if that's sorted out, go ahead and knock yourself out. And I also decided to add this little watermark on the Sonic intro in the beginning since my edits are low-key getting stolen from left to right. Then finally, I added my actual watermark and set it to render. Man, that shit took me like 3 hours and a half to make. Anyhow, I posted on TikTok and on here. I don't know how those are performing right now, so I put both of them in the pinned comments, so you could go check it out for yourself. And if you like these kind of edit breakdowns, I made plenty more like this school edit trend walkthrough. So if you don't know how to make an edit like that, feel free to check it out. If you want to see another trend breakdown, feel free to comment and suggest what you would like to see. Speaking of the character overway, did I say overway?